It's 900 hours Central Africa time here on this Wednesday, the 18th of October 2017. Jumbo Africa. And a very warm welcome to the first hour on the Newsroom, Kendall.
And a hearty good morning to you. Good morning. Welcome to Channel 4 for Newsroom, SABC.
As you know, I'm Elvis Preslin.
And I'm Kendall Mahamat.
We'll be with you until 12. Now, today the focus on the president. Jacob Zuma, he announced his 11th cabinet reshuffle yesterday, Kendall. Surprise for a lot of people.
Oh, yes.
But it happened.
It happened, caught a lot of people off guard. Nobody really expected it to happen. And one of the big things that have come out of it, though, is that it seemed like there was a little less consultation or a hearing of advice by the president. But that's a story for another day, isn't it?
That's another story for another day. We'll talk to the role players about this. But we're asking you this morning, what do you make of the latest cabinet reshuffle by the president, Jacob Zuma? Let us know what's on your mind on the Twitter handle at SABC Newsroom as well as on the Facebook page. But let's take a look at what you're tweeting us.
Right, Michael Bigham's toilet comes in well, the president has all the powers to reshuffle his cabinet whenever he sees a need without explaining himself to the SACP or RDA.
Nothing to do with the tripartite alliance, Michael says. Mamani says that was never a reshuffle. It was just a plan to remove Dr. Bladen Zimande, cause of him being outspoken about Zuma's leadership. Well, that is the conspiracy theory. Yep. Well, would like to find out from you, what do you make of that? Let us know what's on your mind. But we're also talking about schools again this morning, Kendall.
Yeah, it actually shocks me that it actually befuddles me that every week we have to talk about schools. I mean, our poll for today, we're talking about how a security guard accused of sexually assaulting up to 87 girls at a Soweto primary school is expected to appear in court, but the school and senior management have been removed. We want to know from you, though, should the principal of AB Puma be criminally charged? That's
the question we posed to you. 129 votes in thus far. 12%, only 12% are saying no, and the rest of you, 88%, are saying yes, he should be criminally charged.
Overwhelming majority. Tweet from Tulani who says, teachers, not the principal. Reckons the teachers should be separate from the principal and the teachers should be charged.
Yes, Michael Big M says yes, on the obstruction of justice grounds. He told the kids not to tell anyone about what happened to them, which makes him an accomplice as well. Well, Michael Big M, what a big one that is.
Yeah, no, I'm spitting fire this morning.
So let us know what's on your mind. We'll read your comments as we continue. But as usual, Kendall, we have a sporting question. My favorite team, of course, they did it now again.
Guess who's happy now? Elvis says, as well as a whole lot of Kaizer Chiefs fans, I want to find out from you, can Kaizer Chiefs take last night's performance against Mamelodi Sundowns into the Soweto derby?
Well, that's a question. It's a big one, isn't it? Because we haven't been doing that well. Tabiso says, I don't think so. Orlando Pirates are going to be the showstoppers.
Oh yes, fighting words already. I love it. Tandagile says, easy now. You're expecting way too much. Right.
Don't get up your hopes too quickly. He says so. Well, let us know what you think. Who could be the standout? Can they hold out, Kendall?
No, look, you know what? I'm hoping they do take this performance into the derby, and I'm expecting Pirates to bring up as much as well. It should be a cracker of a match.
It's all about a mind change, isn't it? To winning,
yes,
rather than losing. But let's get to work. Let's take a look at your news headlines. A security guard accused of sexually assaulting up to 87 girls at a Soweto primary school is expected to appear in the Protea North Magistrates Court today. Parliament has begun its long-awaited inquiry yesterday into the alleged manifestations of state capture in 3 parastatals. It continues today. We'll keep you abreast of that story. And Business Unity South Africa has accused the president, Jacob Zuma, of further undermining the prospects of economic growth with his latest cabinet reshuffle. Now, those are your headlines, and before we get to the news, let's find out from Kendall Makamate what's happening on the sports front.
Elvis, quite a lot happening in the world of sports. Most fascinating is about how the football has panned out, and it really is about how Kaizer Chiefs are doing their thing. Good morning to you. We're also going to be talking about Proteas, but this is what's going on in the world of sports.
The series is still alive as such. I don't know that we might change too much.
A largely unchanged Proteas side goes into their second ODI, hoping for more of a challenge as the spectre of a one-sided tour against the touring Bangladeshi looms large. Kaizer Chiefs put in a performance that stuns critics and pleases fans as they put former defending African champions Mamelodi Sundowns to the sword in their own backyard.
Now Salah, 3 for Liverpool.
A magnificent Liverpool humiliates Slovenian side Maribor by 7 goals to 0 in the UEFA Champions League group stage match.
Oxlade-Chamberlain, it's his first Liverpool goal. Gift wrap for him.
All this due at about 10:40. Should we go to sports? But for now, do stay with Elvis as he's got the news.
Thank you, Kendall. Top story this hour. A security guard accused of sexually assaulting up to 87 young girls at a Soweto primary school is expected to appear in the Protea North Magistrates Court today. He allegedly assaulted the girls at the AB Kuma school that he worked at. The man was arrested earlier this month after 2 pupils laid charges against him. The suspect is expected to apply for bail when he appears this morning. He faces sexual offence charges. Angry parents say they want him to receive a life sentence. The school principal and senior management have since been removed. Now, 21 foreign ministers and a further 7 dialogue partner nations are meeting today in Durban for the 17th Indian Ocean Rim Association meeting. South Africa, one of the founder nations and is now the association's new chair. Our SABC reporter Sibongakonke Mbata is at the meeting and she will keep us up to speed with what is happening there. Very good morning to you, and can you give us an update and tell us more about the 17th Indian Ocean Rim Association meeting in Durban there today?
A very good morning to you too. We must take it back to Saturday when it all started with the business forum that focused essentially on discussing economic ways one can use the ocean economy, secure it, and also make sure that its influences benefits all member states involved. We saw the business forum meeting on Saturday. We also saw the academics meeting so that we can be able to understand the intellectual and scientific side of the entire association meeting here in South Africa. We must highlight also a few highlights for our country. It was announced the new chairmanship taking over from Indonesia last year. It will be chairmaning the Indian Ocean Association RIM for the next 2 years, and quite a number of objectives have come out. There must be explicit focus on the blue economy development, youth empowerment, women development, as well as tourism and aquaculture. Just yesterday we saw the arrival of the SA Agulhas II, where we took a tour inside the ship and we managed to speak to the Department of International Relations and Cooperation's Minister, Maitenkoane Mashabane, where she highlighted how South Africa keeps on developing in leaps and bounds when it comes to leadership positions across the African continent. We must also remember that all 21 states across the Indian Ocean, which are part of the RIM Association, have highlighted some of the new threats that have come in when it comes to the shipping trade. In recent years, it was mentioned that piracy had been the biggest threat, but after speaking to the Secretary General of the Association yesterday, he did mention that a new threat has come into place. It seems like climate change seems to be their biggest threat of late, but it seems like today's meeting will come up with resolutions in terms of moving forward. How can we actually combat climate change so that it doesn't affect ship trade, because all the 21 states and 7 guest countries as well benefit from the shipping trade as it crosses through the Indian Ocean, because a large percentage of the world's trade actually is transported, or rather shipped, through the Indian Ocean. So it is in benefits for all countries involved and for the entire continent as well.
Now, what is the significance of this meeting?
Back to studio.
In fact, so we'll come back to our SABC reporter, Sibongakonke Mbata, who is at the conference there, and we'll go and link to her a little bit later to give us an update. But, of course, as you know, there is a cabinet reshuffle. Now, here's a look at some of the cabinet changes.
6 months after reshuffling his cabinet, which saw Minister Malusi replace Pravin Gordhan at Finance, Higher Education and Training Minister Dr. Blade Nzimande has also been axed. He has been replaced by Professor Hlengiwe Mkhize, who was heading Home Affairs. David Mahlobo, who was a state security, will take the place of Mamoloko Kupai as the energy minister, while Kupai moves to communications. The new state security portfolio now goes to Advocate Bongani Pongo. President Zuma also moved Ayanda Dlodlo, who had recently been appointed to the communications portfolio, to the Home Affairs Ministry. And Puti Manamela is now the Deputy Minister of Higher Education, vacating his post at the presidency. Mzondele Mbeje, SABC News, Johannesburg.
Now, of course, as you know, we are also speaking to some of the analysts a little bit later in the program. We'll bring you up to speed with that story. But in fact, let's go to that story now. We spoke earlier to Professor Lesiba Tefu on the issue. ANC Secretary General Gwede Mantashe says that President Jacob Zuma's cabinet reshuffle, which saw Bladen Zimande being axed as the higher education minister, will impact negatively on the alliance between the African National Congress and the South African Communist Party. The president announced his 11th cabinet reshuffle yesterday, which included moving ministers who started new portfolios less than 8 months ago. Mantashe says that Zuma's axing of the SACP leader, Dr. Bladen Zimande, has worsened what he has described as an alliance at its lowest. And now for more on this, we are joined by Professor Lesiba Tefu in our Pretoria studio. So very good morning to you, Professor, and welcome.
Louis, good morning to you and the listeners.
Now, the nation was reeling yesterday after the cabinet reshuffle. Professor, are you shocked as the nation are?
Well, shocked, surprised, but at the same time pleased that it has happened, because in the sense that I think this is one of the things that will precipitate the downfall of the president. I said then, and I'm repeating myself, that firing Gordhan was likely to precipitate his downfall. It may not be an overnight event, but I think we are reaching a saturation point as a people and as members of the ANC, and indeed as those who are closest to him and who ensured once upon a time that he assumes the mantle of power of the Republic of South Africa.
Was the cabinet reshuffle
that were intended to buttress, to deepen, to promote and enhance our democracy?
Only one minister was fired, and that was Dr. Bladen Zimande, the higher education minister. What does this mean for the tripartite alliance as we speak?
Before I respond to that, let me just put on record that I'm one of those who admire and appreciate what Bladen has achieved so far, especially in the TVET sector. But as far as the alliance is concerned, on paper it exists. It has long stopped existing some time back. And indeed, after 1994, there was no need or room for the alliance. Allied against what? If you want to at least to unpack that concept. Allied against what? Yesterday it was apartheid, certainly not now.
Well, the SACP did indicate that they want to go it alone in 2019. Does this perhaps mean the final nail in the coffin and the end of the tripartite alliance?
Well, they did tell us in 2007 that they would go it alone. They didn't. Even now, they are saying they will go it alone on condition that Cyril doesn't lose. So they sound like an abused spouse, but who is unwilling to move away from the marriage. But maybe it will happen, and it would be good for South Africa.
Is there a sense, perhaps, that the president, you indicated earlier that this is self-preservation, but is there a sense, perhaps, that the president has lost rationality?
I think that he lost some time back, because he cannot justify some of the decisions made. If indeed he was informed by reason, the first thing he would do, and in the interest of the nation and the party, is to fire the underperforming or unperforming ministers. And he has plenty of those. And even the caliber of the people he appoints leave much to be desired. So rationality cannot be brought into the picture when we appraise his performance.
Some are suggesting the move of David Mahlobo to the energy minister sector, is that perhaps a desperate attempt to force through the nuclear deal, as the finance minister did indicate in Washington the other day that the nuclear deal is not really part and parcel of the energy mix moving forward?
Sorry. Well, who is David Mahlobo? If I'm a few weeks ago, he was somewhere called Russia, and the minister who was supposed to accompany the president was not there. The question is why? And is it indeed a coincidence that a few weeks thereafter Mahlobo is a minister of energy? And who was in the company of Minister Mahlobo and the president when going to visit Russia? Very interesting and characters with checkered history. But again, is the South Africa we live in.
The economic freedom fighters that indicate that this is only the first of many other reshuffles that might follow either now or after the elective conference. What do you make of that, and is this perhaps a move to, if there is another cabinet reshuffle a little bit later, that Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma would be brought back into the fold as a minister?
I don't see Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma coming into the fold, certainly not before December. And indeed, the reasons are not complicated. She has more time to run around and about, try to campaign. She has time, but if you tie her...
Professor giving us his analysis a little bit earlier, and of course he was coughing a bit, but you've got the message really in terms of his analysis on the subject of the cabinet reshuffle. And that's why we're asking a question today. We'd like to get your thoughts on the cabinet reshuffle by the president. What do you make of it? And you can let us know what's on your mind on the Facebook page as well as on the Twitter handle at SABC Newsroom. I'll read those comments in a short while. Meanwhile, as Parliament started its long-awaited inquiry into alleged manifestations of state capture in 3 parastatals yesterday, with researchers from 4 universities urging parliamentarians to probe breaches of laws and regulations, as well as expose individual corruption. The State Capacity Research Project was briefing legislature on alleged instances of governance failure and the capture of Eskom, Transnet and Denel.
It's going to be a long and dramatic inquiry into state capture at these 3 entities. The State Capacity Research Project estimates monies involved to run to hundreds of billions. They point a finger at cabinet ministers and various boards and executives of these parastatals. They argue all must be made to account.
This inquiry is a unique opportunity to force implicated individuals to answer under oath and publicly here to widely publicize incidents of administrative and financial malfeasance and blatant corruption.
I regard President Zuma as my president, not Ubabaga Tutuzane. If you think that is the title befitting the president, it's unfortunate. I have been taught to respect my leaders.
Honorable Paul, sir, what is the order?
Chairperson, the gentleman, the elderly gentleman just told me to shut up. I want him to apologize. Before the bloke speaks, he apologizes.
You know, Honorable Paulson, you just said in this meeting someone is mad. And no one asked you to ask for an apology.
Yeah, but he is mad.
Then we are going to be deflated. I want us to deal with this matter. Let's deal with the other issues later on. When we are now ourselves as a committee, we will deal with who said what to what. And if we think that one is going to take this country forward, if we think that accountability is to throw insults at each other, then that is not what this committee is all about. This committee is all, you see, now I was even marking to say, which could be these questions that the minister has not responded to, so that I remind him to respond to them. So my problem is that I want to appeal to all of you, even those who feel that they are provoked, stick to the line. Don't try to move. Stick to the line, no matter how emotions are raising. Then when you are done, please increase your emotions because you are on your own. So tell our Minister.
No, Chairperson, thank you. I'm just indicating that President Zuma is my president. I do not know anybody who's called Ubabaga Tutuzane in my work of place. I always respect my leaders as I respect these honorable members who have called me to come and account. And I would not want to put myself to answer questions that are not related. I don't know anybody called Ubabaga Tutuzane. I know His Excellency, President Jacob Zuma. That's how I'm gonna engage with any honorable member who want me to answer any question relating to the president, not to Ubabaga Tutuzane. I think I want to make that clear, so that we are clear. I would not know the web that has 118 million and how it was channeled and this way. I'm not part of that web. Or at least to my best knowledge, I've not seen the web. I've seen other webs that talks about other important that this committee, other people that this committee may and have never raised. Honorable members like Joan Rupert and other members of your different parties. I've seen those webs. I've not seen whether the money went from this, the time when this project was implemented. I was taken to economic development at some point for 2 years. That is what I keep on saying.
Wait, Honorable Paulson, but no, I said I will invite anyone if I need to be assisted as a chair. You know, we power in Omwangalala. You, hey, don't outsource me. Don't outsource me. Now, honorable members, I said, no matter how, you know, there's only one thing that I was taught. No matter how much you provoke me to lie, I'm gonna be very patient. You can provoke, as long as I'm gonna do what I was supposed to do. Anything you do now that has got nothing to do with this meeting, you are free to do it, but you are doing it at your own. So, but it's me who's chairing. Do you want to chair? It's me who's chairing. I told you, I said, if you are not here, I don't understand. What is this level? Please, cool down, relax. You'll get your chance again. I'm one of the fairest chairperson you have ever met. I can guarantee you that one. Relax. So I want the minister to answer the question. It's me from the chair. You usually ask in Parliament, Chair, my question now. I want the minister to answer the questions. So you could come back. Minister, I think I was talking about the flight to India and what was the purpose of finding yourself in India. Then there was the one whether you were ever on the Gupta plane. Then the number was mentioned. I will ask. These answers that were given were relevant to the Tegeta, Oak Bay, and so forth. Because that issue, whether
let's deal with them at that particular stage.
Honorable Smith, Honorable Mandela, Honorable Lorima. Yes, Honorable Post.
Listen, Chairperson, you did say that any question.
Secondly, NP Zwane. Now the first question is, Mr. Chair, and I want you to listen very carefully. The first question is, did the group...
So your headlines, will come back to them, but right now, let's go back to Parliament, where the Minister, Mineral Resources Minister Mosebenzi Zwane, is under fire.
With the consequence that that plane landed at Waterkloof. Do you understand the question, Minister? Thirdly, the issue around December 2015 is as crisp as this. And I will explain it to you, because the documentation is here. You went on a flight in December 2015, after your appointment as minister. In Zurich, you did not catch the flight which was scheduled for your departure from Zurich.
That's what it means. That's where your brother was, Siabadinga. We want them to be here. We want to look after them. Very well.
Thank you, Justice. Okay. Now, do you know when he was moved and the other patients moved to Siabadinga?
Dit was hier in Mei maand geweest.
It was around May.
Of which year? Just to
2016.
Now, in your opinion, when you came to learn about and their facilities, would you say that Siabadinga was...
Dit het vir my gesê, so toe ek agtergekom, weet iets is nie lekker nie, weet hy kry nie genoeg water en kos nie.
Okay. When my brother was there, I went to visit and took food with, and he was very hungry because at that stage we sat in the kitchen as there was no place for the families, and I closed the kitchen door. And all of a sudden the door opened and a child ran in and he stuffed the food into his mouth. And I could realize that this child was very hungry. And my brother was so hungry, he almost ate the serviette that went with the food. He was also very thirsty. I gave him 500 ml of cold drinks, and eventually he drank a whole 2 liters of cold drink. And he told me he was still thirsty. And then I realized that something was wrong.
Did you assist Siabadinga in any way to provide for these patients?
Ons het op 'n stadium 'n groot fondsinsameling gehad, donasies en goed. Dit was op die 4de Junie het ons so 'n oop dag gehad waar Solidariteit het baie skenkings gebring. Ons het tot 'n wasmasjiene gekry en daar het bakkies vol gekom met komberse en linne en vleis, groente, nie bederfbare produkte.
And yes, we told them that Siabadinga needed help to feed these patients.
Did Siabadinga per se also took part in this initiative to get donations?
Ja, hulle het ook hulle deel gedoen.
Yes, they did play their part.
Now, do you know whether the fact that Siabadinga did not have the necessary resources to look after these patients, do you know whether or not that was made known to the department?
Herhaal net weer die vraag.
You testified, you said, well, we had to get food and linen and all of those things. I would just like to know, according to you, did the Department of Health know that Siabadinga did not have that resources? Were they aware of the fact?
Nee, hulle was nie.
No, they weren't.
I would just like to, perhaps I should just refresh your memory. Do you know Mr. Pieter de Jager?
Ja, I know him. Ek weet van hom.
Yes, I do know.
I'd just like to refer people here, Justice, if I can just refer to document ELAH10. And that is a letter from Mr. Pieter de Jager.
Nou, ek onthou hy het hom vir my ook gesê.
I remember he CC'd me in it.
Okay, so you have knowledge of this letter. It was found that there exists minimal infrastructure for the proper care of these patients that cannot fend for themselves, as they have been certified to be taken care under the care of the Department of Health. He says that the kitchen has a stove with 2 plates to prepare food for 73 patients. They had 1 small washing machine to do all the laundry, linen. Now, can you confirm, is that more or less what the circumstances were at Siabadinga?
Ja, dit was. Want daar was op 'n stadium gewees wat hulle vir my gevra het ek moet vir Jaco klere en beddegoed bring. En ek het dit vir hom gevat en toe ek daar kom, toe kom ek ook agter die ligreëling binne is baie warm. Dit is onnatuurlik warm geweest. Het ek gevra hulle moet asseblief dit afstel want dit kan die pasiënte siek maak vir alles hulle uitgaan buitekant toe. Maar op die einde van die dag was al sy goed weg. Ek weet nie waar dit geëindig nie.
Yes, they even asked me at a stage to bring clothing and linen to Jaco. And when I took these items to him, I realized that the aircon was too hot inside. And I asked them to please change the settings as these patients might get sick when they go out and come back in. But at the end of the day, these items were gone. I don't know what happened to them.
Now, do you know whether or not the department replied to this letter?
Nee, hulle het nie geantwoord daarop.
No, they did not reply to it.
But when did you become aware of this letter? We know that Mr. Jager wrote the letter in June 2016. When did you become aware and know about the letter?
Ek het van die letter van die brief bewus geraak. Hy het dit ook vir my in daai week het hy dit vir my gestuur. Ge-CC.
And who else were on the committee of parents and interested parties at Siabadinga?
Daar was 'n hele paar families wat betrokke was. Wat ek kan onthou is Christine.
That's the Life Esidimeni arbitration process that's continuing here in Parktown. Let's now go back to Parliament where the proceedings are continuing into state capture.
Estimated 2.15 billion deal. If so, what was the nature of his involvement and whether did he consider such involvement ethical and beyond reapproach? May the Honourable Minister, Chair, kindly advise whether there are any statutory provisions for compliance and disclosure by companies in the event of such changes related to the accounts for rehabilitation of mines registered with DMR. What measures do the departments take when companies are in breach of such compliance? Further, what responsibility do financial institutions have in respect of compliance and disclosure to the DMR in respect of such changes? Can we gain advice, Honourable Chair, whether the department is privy to the allegations that the imminent closure of the Gupta's Bank of Baroda account may have put the rehabilitation funds at 280 million on core fund